Hello, hello, hello. Happy Thursday. Welcome. So today we are looking at lesson 5, conversation 3. So our situation is you visit your friend's house and your friend is in the other room making some food. And you sit down in the living room and you start eating some snacks. And your friend goes, "Oh my God, those are treats for our cat." Ugh. And you say, whatever. And this is our third personality where the person's too chill, too relaxed, no real strong feelings. And so then you go on an adventure with your friend, and your friend suggests that you go to a B&B. And a B&B is a bed and breakfast where you stay over the night and you sleep at the place. It's kind of like a hotel, but it's a little bit more like a home. And then when you wake up in the morning, a bed and breakfast will give you breakfast. They give you a bed and breakfast. And so you have this kind of crazy breakfast where you just say, I don't know what to eat, so you randomly choose some crazy stuff. And then your poor friend has to deal with what you chose. So, some of the things that you chose, what do we get? We got some live octopus. Ooh. Have you ever tried this? Live octopus is served in South Korea, and they give you a plate of octopus, and the tentacles are still moving. Ooh, kind of creepy. And they can stick to things. They stick to your chopsticks, they stick to your plate, everything. So you have to dip it in oil so you can swallow it. Ugh. And then you had spicy hot pot, which is really, really delicious, but using ghost peppers, which are too spicy. And maybe your friend, whew, toasty, too hot. And then, last but not least, you had fermented fish. There are some places that eat fermented fish. In Northern Europe, they eat this super, super, super stinky fermented fish, which is, oh God, the stinkiest thing in the world. And I've heard stories that if people open a can of it, the building will be emptied. People will run away and they'll have to call the health people to check to make sure everything's okay. And then South Korea has one too, which is something I tried and it was pretty awful. There's also one in Japan called kusaya, and I tried that too, and I thought it would be horrible, but surprisingly, it tasted pretty nice. It stunk, it smelled really bad, but it tasted pretty good. So maybe you can try that one sometime. Kusaya in Japan. So today we're looking at our homework for Lesson 5, Conversation 3. And over here on the left, I have the chat open, and hopefully it's working this time. Last week, I didn't see anybody's messages, but feel free to send me a message, say hello, or ask questions, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And this time, we are talking about a few different things. In our first part, we have in order to, or for, meaning the purpose of something. And then another way to show the purpose, we learned so that. So that's in our second part. Excuse me. So part 2 is in order to and for. Part 3 is so or so that, meaning that it's for the purpose. And then in our part 4, we use so and such to describe something. So amazing that blah, 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 blah. Describing a thing, and because it's so good, something happens. Okay? And then, last but not least, we have our conversation where you go to this bed and breakfast, this B&B, and try some wild, interesting foods, right? Okay, so let's get started with our Lesson 5, Conversation 3, Section 2. Okay? So, this is where we're practicing using for, in order to, and to show purpose, to show why we do something. Okay? So our first sentence is, 为了我的老年生活，我开始存钱。In English, I would say, I started saving money for old age. Okay? Or you could say, I started saving money for retirement. Now, like we said before, if our purpose is a thing, we want to use the word for. So for is followed by a noun. So here I said for old age or for retirement. Okay? And so let's get started piece by piece. I started saving money for old age. Now, this is past tense because you started before, and you can only start one time, so we can use past simple tense to show that it's finished. I started and it's done. Maybe you're continuing to save money, but the start only happened one time. I started saving money for old age. So remember that ed. Now, I used saving with an ing. You could also say I started to save. Here, started to save, started saving, it's the same meaning. Now, we will talk about the difference between some words that have to save or saving in later lessons. In lesson 7, we're going to talk about the difference between verb to verb or verb ing. And some words are the same. The word start, it's the same if you use to or ing. But other words are different. We'll talk about those in a future lesson, okay? And so I started saving, or I started saving money for old age. You could also use the word began. Remember, it needs to be an, began, because like started, it needs to be past tense. I began to save money for old age, okay? And then we use the word for because we're following it by a noun or a thing. We're talking about when you are old, that situation, so old age. Or you could say retirement. The meaning is slightly different. Retirement is when you finish working, you stop working, and you just relax after a long life of working. So old age and retirement are similar but slightly different, okay? And then I said for old age. Keep it simple. Some of you said my old age life, my elderly life, my retirement life, all of these. You could say that, but usually when we're speaking, you don't need to say my old age life, because just saying my old age or old age, we know it's your life, okay? So you don't need to add the word life. Just say for old age, okay? I also saw for my life at an old age. That would be okay. Yeah, that would be fine because it's for my life. And then when? At an old age. So that's fine. For my life at an old age. But saying something like my old age life, you're using old age to describe life, and you don't need to do that. Just say my old age. Okay? Next up, 我需要打电话给 Bob 确认一些事情. Okay. And so, what do you need to do? I would say this as, I need to call Bob to confirm some things. So confirm is one meaning of 确认. You want to make sure it's right. Or you could say, I need to call Bob to check some things. Check means to ask about something. So confirm means you want him to tell you exactly what is correct. And then check is more generally asking some questions. So both of them are okay here. 确认 could mean either one. Okay? And now, first up, I need to. You could say I need to or I have to. Both are okay. I need to call Bob. So you can keep it simple. You can say, I need to call Bob. Some of you wrote, I need to give Bob a call, or I need to give a call to Bob. And that's fine. The English is not wrong, but you're starting to get longer. I need to give a call to Bob, or I need to give Bob a call. That's okay, but you can, if you want to, you can shorten it just to call. I need to call Bob. So you don't need that word give in there, okay? And then, I need to call Bob. Why? To confirm or to check. So this is the shortened form of in order to. You could say, I need to call Bob in order to check some things. That's fine. But a lot of times, people will take in order to and shorten it down to just the word to. So when you're speaking, you don't really need to use the phrase in order to. Just use the word to. But if you're writing, it's good to use in order to because it makes it very clear what you're trying to say. And so, yeah, so you could say to confirm, to check, in order to confirm. All of them are right. But I think if we're speaking, shorten it down just to to. Now, I saw a couple people use the word for. I need to call Bob for confirming some things. Now, this sounds a little bit awkward. It's more comfortable and more common to have to followed by a verb. Instead of using for followed by verb ing, or at least for a word like confirming. Confirming is a verb plus ing that works like a noun, but it's not that common. If we were using the noun form of confirm, we would probably say confirmation. So for confirmation. The word conform has a noun phrase. The word confirm has a noun form, so you don't need to use the gerund. The gerund being verb plus ing. Okay? So you could say for confirmation. Okay? But saying for confirming sounds a little bit strange. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting a little mixed up. And then, last but not least, in Chinese it says 确认一些事情. So I wrote it as some things. So 2 words because it's 一些, like some, more than one. So some things. Okay? Now, a lot of people wrote something, but something means you're only going to check one item, one thing, one topic. Okay? So if we're talking about more than one, you should say some space things, some things. Okay? Next up, 我以前常常帮我哥跑腿，但现在不会了. Okay, so in English I would say, I used to run errands for my brother, but now I don't. So here's the phrase used to that we learned at the really close to the beginning of our course, right? I used to run errands for my brother, but now I don't. Okay, so here, used to. We just want the words used to. Used to means I did it before, but now I don't do it. Okay? I saw a couple of people use I was used to. Now remember, was used to or to be used to something means you're comfortable doing it. So that is not what we're talking about here. Using I used to means you did it before, but now no. But if you say I was used to something, that means you were comfortable doing it back then. But maybe something changed and now you think it's weird. So that would be better for something like, I was used to hearing kids speak English everywhere. Well, yeah, when I lived in America. But now in Taiwan, I am used to hearing kids speak Chinese everywhere. So when I hear kids speak English, I go, whoa, kids speaking English, what the heck? Okay? So used to and was used to, be careful of the difference. And then for 跑腿, I said run errands. An errand is a small little job. Maybe you go out and you buy something. Maybe you help him do something outside the house. Maybe go to the bank, go to the post office. So I used to run errands for my brother. And a few people said just do something, but run errands is a little bit better because it's being more specific, saying, oh, I used to help him do a few things. Now, remember, you don't want to use the word help in here. I used to help my brother run errands. That's a different meaning. Remember, if we use help, that means you and your brother would work together and go together, okay? But if you did it while your brother was busy doing something else, we would not add the word help, okay? So in English, help means work together to do something. Okay, and then the second part, keep it simple and say, now I don't, meaning now I don't run errands for my brother, okay? We want to have the subject verb in here. So I used to run errands, now I don't. Keep it the same subject, it makes it better. So some people wrote now, not anymore. You didn't have a subject. Add in that word I don't anymore, okay? I also saw it's not now. It is for a situation, but we're talking about something I do, so you should use the word I don't now, okay? Next up. Our next sentence is 你的脑袋是用来思考，不是拿来装饰用的. So, your brain is used for thinking. It's not just for decoration. Or, your brain is used for thinking. It's not used for decoration. Okay? I would usually go with the first one. It's not just for decoration. Okay? Now, your brain is used for thinking. Thinking is this action. And we're describing how it's used, so you can use for followed by a verb plus ing because it acts like a noun, okay? And then there's other ways to write this. If you want to use to, you could say your brain is used to think, okay? That would be okay. I also saw your brain is used to consider. But consider doesn't work here because usually consider has an object. You consider something. I considered a choice. I considered a decision. But you don't just consider. You just think, okay? So here, think is a better choice of words. And so, the second part, it's not just for decoration. Okay, for decoration means it's a thing you have there just to look at, and it's nice to have. Oh, that's cute. That would be decoration. So the noun here is for decoration. Now, if you use the word decorating, it sounds a little bit different because decorating suggests that you're putting things on it. Saying that your brain is not for decorating means you have your brain, and decorating your brain would maybe like color it and put stuff on it to make it look pretty. We want to say your brain is not decoration, meaning a piece of decoration. If you say your brain is not for decorating, means, oh, don't color your brain, don't stick things on your brain. So the meaning would be different. So for decorating, it's kind of a different meaning. It's better to say for decoration, okay? And same thing with to decorate. It's not to decorate. That would mean, again, you take your brain and you decorate your brain. Woo! But we don't want to use it that way. We want to say that it's not used for decoration, okay? It's not just for decoration, it's not used for decoration. You don't put it there and look at it and say, wow, that looks nice, okay? So next up, we're talking about purpose using the word so or so that. Now, in our lesson, we learned so that, but when speaking and writing, people usually drop that word that. So usually you can just use so. So in all of these, I only wrote so. But if you wrote so that, that's okay too, okay? The first sentence is, 我必须多吃蔬菜，这样才不会便秘. Ooh, so got to eat more veggies. Okay? So I need to eat more vegetables so I won't get constipated. Ooh, kind of a yucky topic, but it's part of life. You got to stay healthy, right? So you could say, I need to or I have to, of course. I need to eat more vegetables. Why? So I won't get constipated. Now, constipated is an adjective or about you. So we often use the word get. I won't get constipated, meaning I won't become constipated. Constipated is an adjective meaning that your stomach's not working, right? You could also say, so I won't be constipated. So both are the same. Get is focusing on becoming constipated, and be constipated just means you're not in that situation, okay? You could also use the noun form of this word. So the adjective is constipated. The noun is constipation. It's kind of like if you go to a doctor, the doctor would talk about constipation, while when people are speaking about how they feel, they would probably use constipated, the adjective, okay? So I won't get constipation or have constipation. But remember, you can't use constipated, you can't use constipated or constipation by itself. So I saw someone say, so I wouldn't constipation. Constipation is a noun, so you need a verb before it. So I won't have constipation. I also saw I won't suffer from constipation. That is totally fine. It just sounds more formal. Oh, I won't suffer from constipation. It sounds, yeah, too formal for what someone would say day to day, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. Sometimes it's good to learn formal English, okay? I also saw I won't stuck in my stomach. This doesn't really work here, but you could say something like food won't get stuck in my stomach, but it would be more common to just use the word constipated, the adjective, okay? Okay, let's move on. I don't want to think about that too much. Our second sentence is 我要多练习讲英文，这样舌头才不会打结。Have you ever tried telling tongue twisters? A woodchuck chuck. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Ooh, tongue twisters. Will you get all tongue-tied? I don't know. So, in English, I would write this as, I want to practice English more, so I won't get tongue-tied. To get tongue-tied means, just like the Chinese phrase, your tongue gets tied in a knot, and you have trouble speaking. So, we can write this many different ways, depending on your feelings. I use the word want. I want to practice more English, or I want to practice English more. And you could also use the word should. I should practice English more. This is more like it's the right thing to do. Or I have to practice English more. You're pushing yourself harder. It's stronger. Or I've got to practice English more. All of these are okay. Have to, got to, make it even stronger, saying I need to do it, okay? And why? So to show why, we can use the word so. So I, blah, 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 blah. You could also say so that I, okay? So I won't get tongue-tied. You could also say, so I won't be tongue-tied. Or like, so I won't be tongue-tied when I speak, okay? You could also keep it simple and say, so I can speak better, okay? That would be keeping it a little bit more simple, but it's fine. Or you could also say, so I can speak English fluently. That's great too. So that's kind of, those two are kind of the opposite feeling. Instead of saying, so I won't be tongue-tied, a negative, you're focusing on positive. So I will speak well, or so I will speak fluently. Fluently means you speak really smoothly and you're comfortable speaking, okay? So to show the purpose, I used so or so that. You could also use what we learned in the last lesson. You could use in order to. So I want to practice English more in order to not get tongue-tied. You want to use in order to, you take away the word I. If we use so, you say, so I won't get. But if you use in order to, you'd say, in order to not get tongue-tied. So take away the so I won't, okay? You can also say, I want to practice English more. I want to practice English more often. I want to practice English more frequently. But you should have the word more in there to show more than right now. Right now I'm practicing this much. I want more, okay? So our next sentence is Kyle 走了好久的路才找到一间素食自助餐. So this is a true story. So I often like to go to these kinds of vegetarian buffets. I'm not vegetarian, but I like these kinds of restaurants because I like to eat vegetables. And sometimes it feels good to say, I don't need meat today. I still eat meat and I like to eat meat, but meat is not very good for the environment, for the earth. So sometimes it's better to only eat vegetables. And it's also pretty good for your health too. So this happens to me. And what we can say is Kyle walked really far so he could find a vegetarian buffet. So near the office, there's not really any vegetarian buffets. So Kyle walked really far so he could find one. So, oh, where are they? And I walked 20 minutes. Oh, okay. So Kyle walked really far. We could write this a few different ways. Kyle took a long walk, meaning basically the same thing. Walked really far, took a long walk, but that's focusing on one time. Walked really far just means really, really, really far. Maybe not at one time. And then you could also say walked so long, focusing on the timing. He walked so long, so, okay? But I think talking about the distance is a little bit better for this one. Kyle walked really far, or he took a long walk. Now remember, we want to use past tense for this, meaning that it already happened, okay? So Kyle walked really far. And then the second part is so he could find a vegetarian buffet. And so here's the so I can form. So someone has the ability to do something. So we don't want to just say so he found. That would be like one then the other. So the word so can just mean one thing happened, then one thing happened next. But here we're talking about the purpose. In order to, or so that. So he could find, because I wanted to find it, and so he walked really far to have the ability to find it, okay? So it's better to say, so he could find, or so that he could find, okay? And then, what kind of restaurant is it? I call it a vegetarian buffet. You could also call it a vegetarian buffet restaurant, or just a vegetarian restaurant. All of these are basically the same, but vegetarian restaurant, maybe it's not just a buffet, maybe it serves vegetarian food. But by saying buffet, you know that I'm talking about a 素食自助餐, okay? And then vegetarian is the word we're looking for. A couple of you use the word vegan. Now, vegan is different than vegetarian. Vegetarian is someone who does not eat meat. A person who is vegan, V-E-G-A-N, is much more strict. And what they say is a vegan will not eat anything that comes from an animal. So vegetarians don't eat meat. So they say no chicken, no pork, no beef. But a vegan doesn't touch anything that comes from animals. No chicken, no pork, no beef, but also no eggs, no cheese, no milk, and also no honey. because bees make honey. So a vegan is much more strict than a vegetarian, okay? So be careful using those two words. Vegetarian is usually what you're talking about. A vegan is way more intense. They really don't want to touch anything from animals, okay? And so, next up is talking about a friend of mine, and he loves telling bad jokes. And so, our next sentence is, Lucas 应该停止讲冷笑话，这样才能够找到女朋友。Good luck, buddy. So, Lucas should stop telling lame jokes so he can find a girlfriend. Okay? So here, Lucas, oh God, he's always telling lame jokes. Okay? And with a joke, usually the verb we use is telling. You tell a joke. So because it's going from me to you, I tell you a joke. Okay? If you use a different verb, different verbs don't often go with the word joke. So we don't really say speaking bad jokes. We don't say saying jokes. We say telling jokes. So use telling when you use the word joke. So I use the word lame jokes. You could also say dad jokes. A dad joke is the kind of joke that a dad would tell. And usually they're pretty lame. And then you could also say dumb jokes. You could also say bad jokes. But if you said cold jokes, we don't really have this phrase in English. Cold jokes comes from Chinese. In it, Americans will not understand if you say cold joke. You'd have to say bad joke, lame joke, or dumb joke. Okay? And then we don't often say boring joke. The word boring in Chinese has a few more meanings than in English. So I understand where you're coming from with boring here, but boring means it makes someone not interested. And that's kind of different than a bad joke. A bad joke is not boring. A bad joke is interesting, but it's interesting in a bad way, where you go, oh God, that was so bad. Okay? But a boring joke, maybe I have no feeling. So it's better to say lame joke or dumb joke or bad joke, okay? And then, why does he need to do that? We use so or so that to show the purpose. So he can find a girlfriend. Or you could say so he can get a girlfriend, okay? Now we use can find, or can get, because it gives him the chance. He needs to stop telling lame jokes so he has the chance to get a girlfriend. We don't know that he will get a girlfriend. So some of you said he should stop telling lame jokes so he will find a girlfriend. Now, if you use the word will, it's like it will happen. You know it will happen. But here, just because he stops telling bad jokes doesn't mean he's going to get a girlfriend. He still has a lot of work to do. But he has the chance to. So that's why we use the word can. Okay? And so we can move right on to our next one, which is using so, adjective, that. So you're describing someone or something and saying, oh, it's so this, in that it causes something to happen. Or you can use a noun and say such, something, that, blah, 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 blah. So you're just describing what kind of thing it is, and then that causes something to happen, right? Okay, so these are a little bit tricky because sometimes you have to figure out when to use so, when to use such. I would recommend to you, if you're writing sentences like these, using the word so is a little bit more common. So, adjective, that is a little bit more common than such a noun, that. Okay? But they're both usable. They're both common. Just so is a little bit more common. Okay? So, this is lesson 5, conversation 3, part 4. We're moving along quick, huh? And our first sentence is 她实在太美了，我无法直视她的眼睛。Oh my gosh, I can't handle it. Too much for me. She is so beautiful that I can't even make eye contact with her. Oh, too beautiful. So, here we use the phrase so that. With beauty, we usually use just the word beautiful. The adjective beautiful is really, really common. That's probably your first choice to use in this kind of sentence. She is so beautiful that I can't even make eye contact with her. So, I used so beautiful. And I would say that's probably the best answer. I also saw she is such a beauty that. Now, a beauty means a beautiful person. So this is correct, but it's a little bit old-fashioned, maybe. I like it. It's cute, but it sounds a little bit old-fashioned. Oh, she's such a beauty. Young people today would probably not describe someone as such a beauty. They'd probably just say she is so beautiful, okay? She's so beautiful. You could also say she's such a beautiful girl. That would be a little more common. So she's so beautiful, or she's such a beautiful girl. Such a beauty is correct, but it sounds a little bit old-fashioned, okay? So she's such a beautiful girl that I can't even make eye contact with her. Now, to make eye contact, this is a pretty common phrase. And if you want to say 只是她, you can say make eye contact with her. So you make eye contact with somebody. Both of you look in each other's eyes, okay? So that's the phrase you should remember from this sentence. Make eye contact, okay? Now, make eye contact means both people look at each other. And you could also say, look her in the eye. So when talking to her, to look someone in the eye means to make eye contact. So that's totally fine too. I can't even look her in the eye. Usually we use I instead of eyes. There's not really any reason. You have two eyes, so you'd think, shouldn't it be look her in the eyes? But we usually just use I singular. So I can't even look her in the eye. Okay? Now these two phrases are the best for this. Make eye contact, look her in the eye. Okay? If you say something differently, it might make sense, but it's not those common phrases. So I can't look at her eyes directly. You are describing the situation, so I can't look at her eyes directly. You're not wrong, it's correct, but this is not a common phrase. So you're describing it, but using one of the two phrases I said before would be better. So make eye contact, look her in the eyes. Now, look her in the eyes. So look someone in the eyes means to make eye contact. Now, I saw a few people write look into her eyes. Now, if you use the word into, look into her eyes, it sounds like it's deeper. This sounds more romantic. To look into someone's eyes is more like, oh, you are looking deeply into their eyes. It feels more romantic. So look her in the eyes means make eye contact. Look into her eyes sounds romantic because into means you're going deep. Oh, am I scaring you? Okay. Now, just like look at her eyes directly, if you say look straight into her eyes or look straight at her eyes or look at her eyes, all of those are describing this, but it's not a common phrase. So remember those two phrases. Make eye contact, look her in the eyes. Now, we want to use the word eyes, right? One student wrote, I can't look directly at her. So we want to say look her in the eyes. So you can look at her, but maybe you're shy and you don't want to look her in the eyes. If you say, I can't look directly at her, she's over here, and so you go like this. Oh, hi, Cindy. So you're too scared to even put your face towards her. You don't even want to look at her. And saying something like look directly at her sounds like she's the sun. We usually use this phrase to describe the sun. Don't look directly at the sun because you'll burn your eyes. Or there's a old monster called Medusa, a lady with snakes on her head. And you would say, don't look directly at her because you'll turn to stone. So if you say look directly at something, it sounds way more serious. And usually that's used for something that's dangerous. Don't look directly at the sun. It will hurt your eyes. So if you say I can't look directly at her, maybe looking at her will hurt your eyes. So in this phrase, we want to focus on I can't make eye contact, or I can't look in her eyes, okay? Okay, I just thought that was kind of fun. If I look directly at her, maybe she's so beautiful, it will hurt my eyes. Oh my gosh. Okay, our next sentence is 台湾人实在太热情，很多人都对我很好. Now, this one was a little bit tricky because most of you figured, oh, we should use so, adjective, that. But actually, it works better if we don't have the word that here. So to practice the so that we learned before, okay? Taiwanese people are so friendly. A lot of people have treated me really well. Now, the reason that I keep these separate, it's one thing and then another thing. If you use so that, it's describing something so much that it causes something to happen. Taiwanese people being friendly doesn't cause them to treat you well, or not exactly. It's two separate things. You're describing the people, and then they treat you very well. If you want to say they are so friendly that, you would say they are so friendly that I feel at home. It causes something to happen or causes a feeling. But here, Taiwanese people are so friendly. A lot of people have treated me well. One doesn't cause the other thing to happen. They both happen at the same time, right? They're kind of together. So that's why I keep them separate as two sentences. One does not cause the other. They're both happening at the same time, okay? Now, Taiwanese people are so friendly. That's the first part. A lot of you wrote Taiwanese. If we have a word that's ESE, Taiwanese, Japanese, Portuguese, usually in English we'll add the word people after it. It's more common to say Japanese people than to say Japanese. Or it's more common to say Taiwanese people than Taiwanese, okay? Usually we use the word Taiwanese as an adjective to describe people, okay? You can use Taiwanese as a noun, but it's more common as an adjective, Taiwanese people, okay? And Taiwanese people are so friendly. That's what I said. You could also say they're so nice, so kind, okay? But passionate is a little bit different. Passionate means you love to do certain things. And maybe I am passionate about teaching, or you are passionate about learning. It's something you love. You really dream about it, okay? And then I also saw Taiwanese people are so hospitality. Hospitality doesn't work here. Hospitality is a noun, so usually it describes the industry of letting people stay somewhere. Like the hospitality industry means like hotels and motels and that stuff. you're looking for the adjective hospitable. So Taiwanese people are so hospitable. But hospitable is not a very common word to use. It means very welcoming and very kind, but we don't often use it to describe people that way, okay? It's better to just say nice, friendly, or kind, okay? And then, second part, I said a lot of people. You could also say many people. Many people or a lot of people have treated me very well or really well. And I said, treat me well, have treated me well. You could also say, have treated me nicely. If you say treated me nice, people might say that, but it's actually wrong because how are they treating you? Treating you needs an adverb. An adverb has ly. So treated me nicely or treated me well, okay? You could also keep it simple. A lot of people have been nice to me or have been good to me. Both of those are okay. But remember, you need a verb. A lot of people have been, or a lot of people were, or a lot of people have treated me, okay? So you need that verb after people. Okay. Next sentence is, Bob 真的是个大嘴巴，我再也不要跟他说秘密了。Bob, no, bad. Okay? I would say Bob is such a big mouth that I don't want to tell him secrets ever again. So, right off the bat, a big mouth. So, we learned the word gossip before, and you could use that here, but the Chinese phrase 大嘴巴 and the English, you can also say a big mouth. He has a big mouth, or he is a big mouth. So a big mouth just means someone who talks a lot and tells all your secrets. Oh, Bob, not again. So Bob is such a big mouth. So usually we use a big mouth as a noun. So he is a big mouth. He is such a big mouth. And then what's the result of that? That I don't want to tell him secrets ever again. Okay? So you could say he's such a big mouth. Or you could use other words. He's such a blabbermouth. A blabbermouth means someone who's blah, 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 blah. So you can hear the sound. Blab, blabber. Blabbermouth is someone who talks too much. Okay? Or you could say a gossip, like we learned a couple weeks ago. So a gossip is someone who tells gossip to many people. He is such a gossip. But remember, gossip. Don't add a Y. Gossipy is an adjective. So you can't say such a gossipy. You would say he is so gossipy that. Okay? So you could say such a gossip or so gossipy. Okay? And then he is such a big mouth that, what's the result of it? That I don't want to tell him secrets ever again. Okay. So I use I don't want to tell him. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? Meaning, maybe I did before, but in the future, I don't want to ever again. So I used ever again to show that in the future, it's not going to happen again. And I use ever to make it even stronger, saying never ever. Okay? I don't want to tell him. You could also say, I won't tell him any secrets ever again. That would be just the future. Okay? And I saw a few people say, I won't talk about secrets. Usually we use the verb tell with secrets. I don't want to tell him secrets, or I won't tell him secrets. Okay? And we add an S on secret to say tell him secrets, because you're not going to tell him any, so all of the secrets in the world are not being told to him, so we use the letter S. Don't use the word the, don't say the secret. That would mean there's only one secret that you're saving, okay? And so you could say, I don't want to tell him secrets, or I will never tell him secrets again. Both are okay, okay? Next sentence is 他同时交太多女朋友 有时候会叫错名字。Holy moly, this guy is a jerk. What a bad guy. So he has too many girls at the same time. So I would say he's dating so many girls at the same time that he calls them by the wrong name sometimes. Holy crap, that's terrible. He's on a date with Susan and says, "Oh, hi, Ruby." Oops. He's on a date with Ruby and says, "Oh, hi, Susan." Oops. This guy's a jerk. Wow. What a scumbag. So hopefully you don't know anyone like this. So he's dating so many girls at the same time that he calls them by the wrong name sometimes. So dating means you're going on dates with people. You could also say seeing. So dating and seeing, this means you're going on dates with people. This is before you make it official and have become a boyfriend and girlfriend, okay? So you could say girlfriends in the sentence. You could say, he has so many girlfriends at the same time that he calls them by wrong name sometimes. So if he has so many girlfriends, that means he's even worse. He's even a bigger scumbag than before. If he's dating or seeing many girls, maybe he goes on dates with a few different girls. And maybe it's not super serious. Some people think this is okay. I'll go on a date with her, and 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 then later choose who to become boyfriend, girlfriend with. And some people think that's okay. I personally think if you start dating somebody more than once, then you should slow down and stop seeing other people. But some people say, hey, I can date other people until we say we're boyfriend and girlfriend. So different people have different opinions. But if he has so many girlfriends, that means he said, yes, I'll be your boyfriend to more than one girl. That means he's a really bad guy, right? Okay. So you could say it all three ways. He's dating so many girls. He's seeing so many girls. He has so many girlfriends. But that's a little bit worse, right? Now, I saw a few people use the word make with the word girlfriend. He makes lots of girlfriends. Now, we use the word make to say make friends. Yes, that's true. But when we're talking about boyfriends and girlfriends, we do not use make a boyfriend or make a girlfriend. We do not say that. We'd say find a boyfriend or get a boyfriend or find a girlfriend, get a girlfriend, or become boyfriend, girlfriend, something like that. We don't say make a girlfriend. That sounds like maybe you have a piece of wood and you go chop, 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 and then you make a girlfriend, okay? So we say make friends, but you cannot say make a girlfriend, okay? So he's dating so many girls at the same time that blah, 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 blah. So 同时, you should use the phrase at the same time. I saw a couple of people use the word meanwhile. Meanwhile means two actions are happening at the same time. I was eating pizza. Meanwhile, my friend was eating a hamburger. That means at the same time, but if you're doing many different things, we don't use the word meanwhile for that. So if you say he's dating many girls, you would say many girls at the same time to describe all of them are being dated at the same time. Meanwhile, it's describing two actions, one sentence, another sentence, okay? So he's dating so many girls that he calls them by the wrong name. Or you could say that he gets their names mixed up. So many, many names, and they all get mixed up. I call you Charlotte. I call you Jenny. I call you Dora. Oops, I got them mixed up. And then I also saw a couple people use the word split the wrong names, but we don't use the word split in this way. Split means to separate something. So it's better to use calls them by the wrong name or got their names mixed up. Oops. Okay. If there are no questions, let's keep on moving and move on to our dialogue. So our dialogue is that you and your friend go to this bed and breakfast, this B&B, and there's a really interesting breakfast in the morning with all these interesting things, right? Ooh, my gosh. So, do you try the live octopus? Ooh, it's wiggling in my stomach. Ugh. Or do you try the spicy hot pot with ghost peppers? There's actually a pepper that is even hotter than a ghost pepper. I think it's like a Carolina something. And stay away from that. That can like really hurt people. And then, last but not least, you get the fermented fish. Now, would you ever try that fermented fish? There's the kind from Northern Europe, which is so stinky that people will actually run away and call the fire department and say, there's an emergency, something's wrong. And then there's the Korean stinky fish, which, oh God, it smells like stuff that you use to clean the floor. It smells like ammonia, and it tastes like ammonia too. And you put it in your mouth, your whole face just feels like that smell. It's terrible. Do you think you would ever try it? Oh gosh, it was so disgusting that I almost threw up. Ugh. Don't try it yourself. I would say just watch videos about it. That's good enough. Okay, so for lesson 5, conversation 3, part 5, we have our last 3 sentences. And these ones were not so hard. I think everybody did really well. We used some of the phrases from our dialogue and some of the grammar from before. So the first sentence is 这家餐厅以昂贵的价格闻名. Okay, so I would write this as, this restaurant is famous for its expensive prices. That sounds like a bad reason to be famous, right? It's famous for its expensive prices, okay? That means it's so expensive that people know about it just because it's expensive. When you hear the name, you say, oh, wow, that restaurant's expensive. You don't say, oh, wow, that restaurant's delicious. You'd say, oh, wow, costs a lot, okay? Now, expensive prices, you could say expensive prices, steep prices, or high prices. All of these are okay, okay? I saw a few people write, this restaurant is famous for its price. Now, you want to add the adjective expensive, steep, or high because that's what we're focused on. If you just say its price, I don't know what is famous about its price. I'll probably assume it's cheap, okay? It's famous for its price. Like, oh, wow, is it really cheap? No, super expensive. Be careful. Okay, and the phrase we learned from our conversation was is famous for. So this is a really common phrase describing something or describing a place. Oh, Osaka is famous for that big giant thing of the guy running. Okay? Taipei is famous for Taipei 101. London is famous for Big Ben. Okay? So any place can be famous for something. Okay? And then next up, I also saw people write a sentence that was something like this. This restaurant is so expensive that it's popular. Now, this is using some of our grammar from before, but it changes the meaning. The way you wrote that sentence, it's so expensive that it's popular. Remember, so goes before an adjective. This means it's very, very, very expensive. And because it's very expensive, it becomes popular. Now, that could happen. That with some things that happen. Some people get clothes, and the clothes are really, really expensive. And so they become popular. There's some clothes out there that are really ugly, but because they're expensive, people say, ooh, I want it. So you could say this restaurant is so expensive that it's popular. But the meaning is a little bit different. It means it's expensive and that makes it popular. But famous for something means everyone knows that it is very expensive, okay? Our next sentence is 别担心，晚餐我请客. So, don't worry, dinner is on me. Now remember, as I've said before, in Chinese, it is one sentence with a comma, but in English, this should be two sentences. Don't worry, dinner is on me. So, don't worry, don't sweat it, no big deal, anything like that. And then, dinner is on me. If you want to treat someone, you can say dinner is on me, meaning I will pay. So you could also say dinner is my treat. So I will treat you to dinner. Dinner is my treat. Or you could also say, let me treat you dinner. Now, you could also say, if you want to be more direct, you could say, I will buy your dinner. I'll buy your dinner. Or I'll buy you dinner. Both of those are okay. They're a little more direct. If you're talking about 请客, like being nice to someone, using on me or I will treat you includes that feeling of it's a nice thing to do. Okay? You have an eyelash moving around. And so you're going to bring your friend to this fancy, expensive restaurant. And you want to look good. So you say this. 为了要符合这里的高档装潢，我还特地盛装打扮. Hopefully I didn't mess that up, but you get the idea. So, in order to match the high-class atmosphere, I got dressed up, especially for the occasion. Okay? So, here we have our purpose. In order to marks the part that will be why you're doing something. In order to, followed by a verb. We don't need a subject, right? In order to match the high-class atmosphere. Now, atmosphere is a word that describes the feeling inside of a place. Now, in the Chinese, use the word decoration or the interior design. But in English, it's better to use the word atmosphere to describe the feel of the inside. And how do you get that feel? Well, from the way it's decorated. So using the word atmosphere focuses on more of how it makes you feel. And that by describing the feeling of the room, you're telling me what it looks like. So here you can say high-class atmosphere. That would be more common in English, okay? So in order to match the high-class atmosphere, now I use the word match because we have it like this. I want to match, okay? So make it the same. Some of you use the word fit in order to fit the atmosphere or in order to fit the scene. The word fit is good too. Match means you want to be the same. Fit means the atmosphere is like this and you want to fit inside, meaning you belong there. Okay? So the words, the definition is slightly different, but the way we use it is the same. Match means be the same. Fit means you feel like you belong there. Okay? Or you look like you belong there. So in order to match, in order to fit the restaurant. Okay? And then I saw in order to be appropriate for the place. That would be okay, but appropriate means that's a little bit making it a little more complicated. In order to be appropriate for something means you're okay. But we want to do better. We don't want to just be appropriate. We want to match. We want to look great. Okay? So be appropriate means you just don't look bad. So if you use to match or fit, meaning it looks like you belong there. Okay? And like I said, I use the word atmosphere because it's the feeling of the room. We usually use the word atmosphere to describe how it looks and how it feels on the inside. And that will affect what you want to wear and, yeah, the feeling of the room. Now, if you use the word decoration, the decoration means the stuff around the room, the things on the wall. Or you could say the words decorating style or the interior design. And those are not wrong. You can use those phrases to match the decoration, to match the style, to match the interior design. But usually we would talk about the atmosphere. Matching the interior design or matching the decoration means that you maybe compare your clothes to the walls and say, okay, do they look the same? But if you say atmosphere, it means more in general, the inside of the place. Okay. And then to describe what kind of atmosphere, I used high class. Atmosphere is kind of a formal word, so I use a formal adjective, high class atmosphere. You could also use the word fancy. Fancy is a little bit less formal. You could also use the word high end, high class, high end, basically the same. And I saw a few people use the word posh. Posh also means fancy or high class, but this is more common in British English. Americans don't use the word posh very often. And then posh can also kind of have a negative feeling to it. Maybe it's too fancy or too high class, okay? Not always, but sometimes it can have that feeling, okay? And then the last part, I got dressed up especially for the occasion. Okay, so this is a pretty common way of speaking. I got dressed up especially for the occasion. So for the occasion, for the special event. Okay, so dressed up for the occasion is a very common phrase, meaning you put on nice clothes for a special event. Okay, and I use the word especially to mean I am spending extra effort to do it. It's not a normal thing for me to dress up for an event. I'm doing it especially for this occasion, okay? So I got dressed up especially for the occasion. That describes you're dressing really nice, and just by saying dressed for the occasion, I know that you're going to look really good. Some of you said, I dressed up nicely. I dressed up nicely. That's more general, and that's fine too. And then I said I dressed up especially for the occasion. So you do something especially for something. I saw the words particularly, but that's a little bit different. That's a little more focused, meaning like being particular about something is being very careful about something, but we want to use specially or especially to say you're doing something more than usual, a really special thing, okay? And so that's our last sentence. You go to this fancy restaurant that's famous for expensive prices. Dinner's on me. I got it. Don't worry about it. And to match the atmosphere, you dress up, especially for the occasion. Dress really nice and make it a really special day, a really special dinner. Okay? So we learned a lot of things through this conversation. Our chill out personality, no real opinions this time. This time, our character wasn't super chill, but just had no opinion. Didn't know how to decide on anything. I don't know what to pick. I don't know what to do. What should we do? And let other people decide. And then when he had to decide, he made some crazy choices. I don't know, whatever. Just give me this. Oh. So sometimes it's better to be a little bit more decisive, right? If someone asks you what you want to do, maybe you feel like you're being nice by saying, oh, I don't care. You can choose. But sometimes that can actually be really stressful. It puts a lot of pressure on the other person. Now they have to decide everything. And maybe they don't like deciding every time. And if you have some opinion, then at least it can help the other person figure out what to do. But if you say, I don't know, I don't care, that's too open. Too many choices makes it actually harder to decide, right? Maybe just say one or two ideas. Like, what if we do this or what if we do that? But if you say, I don't know, it doesn't help anything, right? Okay, so here's our conversation where you eat some crazy food. And so we learned lots of different ways to show purpose. One thing leads to another, and lots of different ideas like that through this conversation. So hopefully you liked this conversation. And if you have ever tried some of these foods, let me know. I want to hear some stories. Oh, that ghost pepper was so spicy that I thought I was going to die. Or, oh, that fermented fish was so stinky that I thought I was going to faint or fall over. Okay? So I want to hear your stories. Try using our vocab and using our grammar patterns. If you practice and use it to describe your own life, it will make better connections in your head, right? And the more you practice, the better you'll do. So we don't have any questions for now. So those of you who joined, thank you very much for joining. And if you have questions, let me know. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And I will stick around for a few more minutes. So if any of you are free and would like to chat with me, send a message to Kyle Moai. If you want to chat with me one-on-one for a few minutes, give me a call. I'll be here for a little bit longer. And next week, we will get into our Lesson 5, Conversation 4, with our silly personality. So, have any of you seen the dialogue yet? So, our conversation starts where you eat these treats for the cat and go, meow, I love it. I really like these snacks. And then if you feel like a cat, woo, meow. If you're feeling a little bit silly, feeling like a cat because you ate those treats, what kind of adventure do you go on? Where do you go? Where do you go take a look? Okay? So I'll see you next week where we talk about Hotong Cat Village. Have any of you been there before? Maybe you can visit before next stream. So I'll see you next week. And have a good weekend. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.